Jason, do you do a Connery?
I'm not sure I ever have. I'll give it a shot.
All right, go for it.
Okay. Watch out for that. But that was a Jimmy Stewart, wasn't it?
That was You started out as Connery and then went Jimmy Stewart on the fourth word.
Watch out for that laser beam, man.
Welcome to 1999, the podcast. I am John Brooks.
And I'm Julia Sermons.
Julia, you're back in real America in New York.
Yes.
Cool. Yep. How was your trip? How's your traveling?
Well, apparently for my trip from Denver, I was stuck for 30 minutes on the runway. And apparently if you're like taxiing or whatever, about to taxi on the runway, I don't understand what's happening. They don't let you use the bathrooms, even if you need to. That is
true.
If you need to change a baby.
Yep.
So I had a very unhappy baby, and then very unhappy people next to me smelling the baby. So
yep, none of it was your fault. So
yeah,
that's fine. That's good. Rest of the flight was okay, I guess.
Not really. She was crying most of the time. But
all right, great. Well, everything's going great in America, so like nothing else to talk about, I guess. It's been a flawless week. All right, well, let's talk about movies instead then. Today we are looking at a movie where a famous James Bond actor plays an art thief who's in it for the thrill, but whose plans are upended when an art insurance agent catches on to his game and resolves to use her feminine wiles to get close enough to him to bring him to justice. And listener, you might be saying to yourself, wait, they just did the Thomas Crown Affair, and you would be correct. In this episode, the 24th highest grossing movie of 1999, coming in just behind another movie starring the exact same actress, The Haunting, opening April 30th at number 1 with an impressive $20 million debut and dethroning The Matrix at the top box office spot, going on to gross $212 million worldwide on a $66 million budget. Directed by John Emile, best known at the time for the Richard Gere, Jodie Foster romance Summersby, and the very emblematic of its distinct subgenre of 90s thriller Copycat, with a script from Apollo 13 and Castaway screenwriter William Broyles Jr., shot by GoldenEye cinematographer Phil Mayhew, and with a surprisingly effective score by Christopher Young, best known for his extensive work in horror. It stars Sean Connery, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Ving Rhames, Will Patton in the Will Patton role, Maury Chaykin, and unrecognizably young Kevin McNally, and the now iconic Mission Impossible actor Ralph Saxon. Today, we are talking about Entrapment.
When fortune knocks, open the door.
He is the ultimate thief.
This is classic Mac.
This was 70 stories up with smart glass windows at 400 pounds a pop.
He's the best.
The law can't catch him.
We sent a couple of guys after him, and these were both good agents.
They were both men.
But she has a plan.
What do you have in mind for bait?
For the perfect trap.
Why are you following me?
I've got a proposition for you. I'm a thief. I give you the world's tallest building and home of the International Clearance Bank. Do I have your attention now?
Undivided.
You are keeping this strictly business, right, Mac?
Strictly. This is how it has to be. First we try.
Then we trust.
Has there ever been anyone you couldn't seduce?
Did he take the bait?
Big time.
You changed partners. You changed rules.
Prepare to go offline.
35 seconds.
Weren't we partners?
You're playing both sides.
This is called entrapment.
No, actually it's called blackmail. Entrapment is what cops do to thieves. You coming?
It's time to take your girlfriend out of the equation.
Shut it down.
Come on!
Move it!
Perfect.
I promise you, you'll have it all.
This is big enough now.
never big enough.
So, Julia, what's Entrapment? Good luck. All about.
Yeah, I was going to say strap in, kids.
Mm-hmm.
In New York City, 16 days before the turn of the millennium, a mysterious figure in a black catsuit steals a Rembrandt that doesn't look that much like a Rembrandt from a skyscraper. Insurance investigator Virginia Baker, also known as Jin, played by Catherine Zeta-Jones, is convinced that the culprit is infamous thief Robert McDougal, also known as Mac, played by Sean Connery.
Jin and Mac. I love that little like.
Jin decides to go undercover, tempting Mac to steal a gold Chinese mask. But, plot twist, Jin is secretly a thief herself. She was the one who stole the Rembrandt. Jin convinces Mac that she's legit, and they do extensive training to prepare for the heist. This obviously includes Jin repeatedly trying to wriggle through a network of lasers in form-fitting outfits. Things are going well, but can Mac really trust Jin? After he overhears her calling her boss at the insurance company, he's convinced that she is double-crossing him. Nevertheless, they carry out the elaborate heist involving scuba diving and those pesky but sexy lasers. Afterwards, Mac confronts Jin by trying to drown her. She swears she's on the level and that she wanted to carry out this robbery to finance a much bigger one. Now, this is a plot point I have to admit I don't totally understand.
Mm-hmm.
But on New Year's Eve 1999, the software of a major bank will shut down for 30 seconds as a preventative measure against the much feared Y2K bug. This will allow Jin to steal small amounts of money from many bank accounts, adding up to a total of $8 billion. This leads us to elaborate heist number 2, with Jin and Mac breaking into the bank's mainframe in the Petronas Towers in Kuala Lumpur. However, Jin's boss is onto them. Things go wrong, Jin escapes, and Mac promises to meet her at the train station the next day. Mac turns up at the train station, but plot twist number 2, he is actually an FBI informant, and he has betrayed Jin to the feds. But before they arrest her, Mac hands Jin a gun. This allows her to take him hostage and escape on the train. But after the feds have left, Jin returns to the station, and she and Mac happily plan their next heist. They also kiss, and this is the culmination of a romance subplot that I didn't mention because this movie barely seems to care about it. The end.
Yeah, which is actually, we'll get to that, but that's actually one of its like more, I think, uniquely strong elements. But again, we will get to it. I have to say, full disclosure, I had forgotten as well, among other things, that this is a Y2K movie, that this is of the subgenre of 99 movies that head on like use Y2K as one of their plot points, along with like Office Space and End of Days and probably some others. But yeah, I was delighted when I was like, oh, right. Several days till millennium is on the little text thing at the bottom of, the subtitles. Anyway, Entrapment is often remembered as one of, if not a movie outright synonymous with, the true duds of 1989. But that doesn't quite line up with reality. One possible culprit for that reputation is its unfortunate timing, sandwiched between two genuinely iconic monsters of the year, The Matrix, released the week before, and The Mummy, the week after. Another is that Connery was just a year removed from the disastrous and very high-profile 1998 remake of The Avengers, while Jones's bankability would be damaged by the absurd and very expensive dud The Haunting later in the summer. But it was a legitimate box office success all the same, and unlike The Haunting, which barely squeaked past it at the box office with a much more favorable release schedule, had real critical support. While its Rotten Tomatoes score comes in at 39, it has a much more respectable Metacritic score of 54 and received enthusiastic reviews from the New York Times' Janet Maslin and the Chicago Sun-Times' Roger Ebert, who gave the film 3 stars and wrote, quote, "Entrapment is the embodiment of a star vehicle. A movie with a preposterous plot, exotic locations, absurd action sequences, and so much chemistry between attractive actors that we don't care. It stars Sean Connery and Catherine Zeta-Jones in a caper that reminded me of To Catch a Thief, Charade, Topkapi, and the stunt sequences in Bond pictures. I didn't believe a second of it, and I didn't care that I didn't. He concludes, as for Zeta-Jones, I can only reflect, as I did while watching her in The Mask of Zorro, that while beautiful women are a dime a dozen in the movies, those with fire, flash, and humor are a good deal more scarce. Taking her cue perhaps from Connery, she also plays a preposterous role absolutely straight. The co-stars and John Amiel, the director, respect the movie tradition they're working in instead of condescending to it. There are scenes in this film when astounding revelations are made, and although I didn't believe them, I accepted them, which is much more difficult and enjoyable. Many critics found the movie enjoyable, but ultimately short of good, like Salon's Stephanie Zakarik, who wrote, quote, "It's too bad that the glamour wears off about halfway through Entrapment, when it stops being a movie about art heists and starts being one about stealing ho-hum money. Thanks to Mayhew, the movie is always wonderful to look at. It has a satiny, sleek look, and the action sequences are crisply executed. But Emile isn't at his best here. It's often all too easy to see where the plot is headed. Tiny holes and bigger ones end up under the story, and just too much about it seems anticlimactic, because the finale, as big as it attempts to be, isn't as clever or as visually arresting as the one that the thieves plan midway through. It's the kind of sequence that makes you feel ready for anything, but in the end, Entrapment ends up giving you very little." There are a couple of very, very bad reviews mixed in there too, but they are actually few and far between, and most of the critics found something to like in this movie, as did I, as we'll talk about later on. So Julia, who is joining us to talk about the other art heist movie starring a James Bond actor from 1999 today.
Our guest today is Jason Christian. Jason is an Atlanta-based writer. He has an MFA in creative writing from Louisiana State University, where he was the nonfiction editor of New Delta Review and co-directed Delta Mouth Literary Festival. His writing has appeared in The Bitter Southerner, Bright Wall, Dark Room, Los Angeles Review of Books, Scalawag, and other press publications. As a journalist and critic, he covers the culture and politics of overlooked or marginalized groups. He teaches writing at Kennesaw State University. He also co-hosts or co-hosted your podcast.
Co-host currently.
Okay, great. Good to know. Cold War Cinema, a podcast about movies and politics from the early years of the Cold War. Jason, welcome. Is there anything I missed?
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here. No, you didn't miss anything, I don't think. Cold War cinema has been what I've been devoting most of my time to lately, as far as engaging with movies and things like that. So, yeah.
So, Jason, I invited you on because you wrote this wonderful essay for Bright Wall Dark Room about Rafifi, which is one of the greatest heist films of all time. And so I felt a little nervous having you here for this one because my understanding was it was not a great heist movie of all time. But John and I were talking, and I think we both liked it more than we thought we were going to. Where did you end up with it?
I had never seen it before, and there's so many twists and turns in this movie that I couldn't I couldn't commit to my feelings on the movie. So I'm like, oh, I'm really liking this part. I'm like, oh, I really don't like this part. And then I'm like, oh, I really like this bit. So on balance, I would say it's a 2.5 star out of 5 star movie for me.
Oh, out
So
of
not,
five. Out of five. Okay, so it's halfway. It's halfway. I
it's
thought
halfway.
out of four. All right, 2.5 out of 5. That's
Well, yeah, out of, is it 5 on Letterboxd or 4?
I can't remember. I think it's 5.
I think it's 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, it's like in the middle for me. It's not my favorite. There are some things that I do like about it. I agree that it is a absolutely preposterous plot, and some of the stunts I'm like, really? But I was along for the ride for a lot of that, and yeah, I'm sure we'll get into it. I always enjoy seeing a new movie, and I don't have to quote unquote like a movie to find a lot to talk about in a movie.
Sure.
There are a lot of things that I had thoughts on a lot of things in this movie. So, yeah.
Julie, what about you? I know you hadn't seen it either, but like, you liked it a little bit, I guess, right?
I did. Can I go like 2.75? I liked it a good deal more than I thought I was going to, which was, I mean, the bar was very low in terms of what I'd heard about the movie. always going to be on board for Catherine. Is it Zeta-Jones, John, or Zeta-Jones?
I think it's just Zeta.
Zeta?
Zeta
Okay.
Jones. Yeah.
Um, love her. Always going to be on board for her doing sexy things with
Mm-hmm.
lasers. Like, sign me up. And I do. I agree with Stephanie Zaharek that the first heist kind of had me more interested than the second one,
Yeah.
which is maybe a problem for a heist movie. Um, you're supposed to escalate, right? Uh, and yeah, I just feel maybe this is me coming out of Thomas Crown Affair,
Yeah.
but the like complete lack of sexual chemistry between these two people
Yeah.
was a
Yeah.
problem for me in terms of like both what the movie was trying to do and also kind of what I want in a heist movie, I guess.
Mm. Yeah, but they have a certain they have a kind of chemistry, and like whatever chemistry they have is pretty great. I thought, right? But like what I liked about the movie, kind of uniquely, and what I think is kind of rare, is that it recognized the lack of sexual chemistry and didn't force it, right? And there's this moment where like it's almost very clever, where like Catherine Zeta-Jones's character is trying to be like, all right, this is the point where we kiss, and I like end up with the older man, and then Connery's like, no. Right? And the audience is like, yes, good, right? That's because it's not there, and it's supposed to be there according to the rules of the movie, but it's not there. There was things about this movie that, even though I've seen it before, but not for a very long time, like I'd forgotten enough that I was still surprised by it. I agree basically that the second heist isn't as good as the first, but I also think that the second heist, I genuinely didn't know if they were gonna like get out or not, right? And so that's sort of where they build the tension there. And I think what's wild to me is like we decided to do this movie because we're like, well, we're talking about heist movies. There's this weird thing where there's these two Bond actors who made a movie in the same year about art thieves. Like, it's bizarre, so let's just do that one next. And I fully expected to just be like, I can barely make it through this movie. And what's wild is that my memory of Thomas Crown was of a really, really great, really, really tight movie that I really loved at the time. And this is like a very sort of weak, run of the mill, dump it in April kind of a movie that I very much did not like at the time. And my current reaction to them is the polar opposite, right? Like, I agree. Like 2.75 stars, I think is the exactly the right one, Julia. But like, there's like 5-star moments in this as well. There's like parts of this movie that I'm just like, this is awesome, and I'm really enjoying, right, just sort of like what is happening right now, and like the vistas, and just sort of the betrayals and the intrigue and the reveals and all that sort of thing. Just a lot of it like really does fire on all cylinders, but basically it's kind of a haphazardly written, sort of like convoluted movie that it's very difficult to take seriously, but it is a lot of fun. Like, it really is. It is quite a lot of fun, especially given its reputation.
Yeah, I do think it's a lot of fun, and one of the things that's fun about it is seeing these incredible settings. You have, Sean Connery's castle,
Yeah.
and it's just an incredible place to film a movie. It's sitting on this like hilltop. It's like a postcard kind of castle. It kind of reminded me of Ripley's, what is that Ripley movie that they filmed with John Malkovich?
Oh, Ripley's Game.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of that kind of vibe. It's like a mysterious vibe. It's this old European aristocratic setting, and then when they go to get this, the second, I guess the first heist, where they go and get this mask, that setting is interesting. The ball with she's wearing the mask, and
Mm-hmm.
I always like an elite party scene where you have people in tuxedos and evening gowns, and there's some kind of intrigue happening in the background. Those are fun scenes, so they do that really well.
I do have to say that I found that dress to be hideous, and I
Oh, it's terrible. Terrible.
The
Yeah.
dress.
And I think all of her clothes in the first half of the movie are like actually pretty dowdy and bumsy, and not what we would consider Catherine Zeta-Jones clothes. And then I thought it was interesting, then once she's fully in her $1 billion heist mode, she's wearing very chic clothes.
Mm-hmm.
It's like something new has been revealed about her. But yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
hideous dress. And that whole line about her being a 6 but getting her a 4,
Oh my
fuck
god.
that. Fuck that bullshit.
Well, there's a lot of cringy, just casual sexism all throughout the movie. I mean, that she just
Yeah.
even sexual harassment from her boss and things like that.
It's Will
Yeah.
Patton playing a Will Patton character.
With a
Very,
ludicrous mustache.
yeah. You know what I thought was great about the 6 and 4 thing, though, is that when Ving Rhames says it, you're like, that's kind of funny, and then when Sean Connery says it, you're like, that's gross. It's the same line, but somehow when Ving Rhames delivers it, there's something charming about him saying it, which is a kind of a clever little moment, I think, in the script. But yeah,
Well, he's definitely more than twice her age.
sure,
So
yes, right, there is that. Yeah. That is true.
I do also want to point out that Catherine Zeta-Jones not a 6.
Oh.
But I do think it was instructive that of how she was seen at the time, that she was seen as this very kind of curvy bombshell type, new type of, or maybe kind of old type of movie star. Then that was kind of important to how she was perceived at the time.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely. I mean, they sold this movie as a movie about Catherine Zeta-Jones's ass, and I don't mean that. That was a for in a pre-internet meme era. The internet meme about this movie was that was the joke, because the trailer heavily emphasized the moment where it's shot from behind her, right? And she's ducking under the lasers or whatever, and at the time that was a big selling point for a movie, because it was the sort of peak Catherine Zeta-Jones as Hollywood sex symbol du jour uh, um, back then. But I'm actually I was kind of, because I remembered that so sort of in such a pronounced way, I was kind of I was pleasantly surprised by how kind of not gratuitous a lot of that is. They definitely lean into it, because of course you have to, right? Because it's she's gorgeous and she's moving around and you have a reason to do that. But one of the great things about this movie is that the characters are actually remarkably well developed, right? They're actually not as two-dimensional as you would think in a movie like this. And yeah, I was kind of shocked how not paper thin and just sort of slinking around, and it's just being all about her ass that that the movie actually is.
there's something. So whenever Connery first meets her, he sneaks into her hotel room, and she's trying to track his movements, and he gets ahead of that and sneaks into her hotel room. It's dark, and she's, this is where the movie is preposterous, and it is kind of gratuitous.
Yeah.
So she sits up fully naked, doesn't even, you would think she would think, oh, I should cover myself, but she's fully naked. We don't see her naked, but we can tell that the camera's behind Connery's shoulder. So he's the point of view character. We're seeing her through his eyes, and she's naked. So the audience is supposed to identify with Connery and be titillated by what he sees, but he's not fazed whatsoever. So he's being a gentleman.
Sean Connery, he's seen it before. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Well, he's all business. This is a business endeavor. He says later that we can't mix pleasure and business, and so we're supposed to be intrigued by his restraint, I think, right there.
Yeah.
And so I do think they do have a kind of chemistry. It's not a sexual chemistry. It's there is sexual tension. We'll put it that way. But that's part of the charm of his character, is he has that restraint. But the choice on the filmmaker's part is cringy and is very much this male gaze thing for the viewer's sake.
See, I feel like if this movie had been about a father and an estranged daughter, it would have been just as good of a movie, maybe better. And I think, because I do think that the protege old master dynamic is actually very strong. And like when they go through that whole training sequence, um like we're looking at her, undulating ass, which like I have no problem with. I'm very pro Catherine Zeta-Jones ass.
Yeah.
But like actually when I saw it again, the way it's shot in the training sequence where they've got the like yarn and the bells that will go off if she hits it when she's practicing, like there's also, it's very sexy, but there's also real athleticism to it. And like it's her pride in what she can do. And you see Connery watching her in that scene, but he doesn't really have that. It's not a leery gaze, it's like he's like watching her like a coach almost, and like looking at what she can do and admiring it. So I thought it was a much more interesting scene than I expected it to be at first.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where I feel like we could have just cut the sexual tension out of this, because they're not like, I don't think it's there between them, honestly. And I don't.
But that's part, like, the movie makes a point of that, which is what I really like about it. That like they acknowledge that it's not there, right? And like that's a sort of surprising plot twist because it is so in line with the trope that like that's going to happen. And then when it doesn't, I'm like, this is refreshingly like honest and kind of in defiance of what the audience is sort of expecting to get out of this. And I actually like I agree, like the Jason with the I kind of blocked it out of my mind, honestly, like where he shows up in her apartment and then like mysteriously disappears.
Yeah.
Right, and like whatever, but whatever, it's fun. But I was like, yeah, that's super cringe. But then I was like, I don't know, I kind of like the choice because it's still sort of keeping the audience in the dark about exactly what she's up to and exactly like what role she's playing in this film and in this relationship, right? We still think she's trying to like seduce this old man and like get him to like reveal the fact that he's behind this heist. She knows she's not, which is sort of like pretty obvious in that scene in retrospect, but within the context of like what we again expect is like, oh, look at me, I happen to be naked. Like, don't you want to now be around me all the time and tell me all your secrets, right? That's sort of the expectation, I think, from the audience. So like, yes, I agree with sort of the awkwardness of that scene itself and the way it's played, but I don't think it's as like gratuitously cringe as I initially kind of thought while watching it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's fair. I think I was just not. I was in disbelief that she would be that casual about it. That's what I was just in disbelief of. But and it seemed like it was just not for Sean Connery. It was for the audience.
Right.
But it is what it is. This is a genre picture, and it's a fun one for sure. So I wouldn't necessarily expect it not to do that. One thing that I do like, something you just mentioned, Julia, about that training sequence. That's what I like about. That's one thing I like so much about heist films is they're procedural, right?
Mm-hmm.
But not police procedural because they're on the other side of that coin. So we get to see how the magic is made or how the sausage is made, so to speak. We get to see all the moving parts and they rehearse it. And it's just really fun to see. That's one of my favorite scenes is when they get this yarn and stretch it across and it's red like the laser beams will be with the bells and so forth. And of course she's wearing ballet shoes, which is kind of a nod to Rafifi because Jules Dassin's character wears ballet shoes in that film, which is, as far as I know, that's the first heist film where they wear ballet shoes during the heist because they're quiet and you can move around in them. And so she really does a fantastic job of this choreographed, almost like like some kind of modern dance routine through this laser beams. So
yeah, and like that whole sequence and the whole sort of like skin tight black and lasers and all that sort of thing, like one of the things that I kept thinking about in this movie that I believe is one of the reasons why it was poorly received is that it does kind of go out of its way um, to try to be a kind of movie in a genre that we will call Brian De Palma's first Mission Impossible movie, right? And not just like the inclusion of two major cast members from that. Well, a major cast member and then a minor cast member from that movie. So Ving Rhames, obviously, and then Ralph Saxon, who plays in Mission Impossible, and then in the final Mission Impossible movie, the same character, the guy who Tom Cruise, jacks the computer information from in that very famous scene of him dangling on the in the skin tight right black whatever. And I just felt like a lot of this movie was trying so hard to kind of be, because this is only 3 years after that Mission Impossible movie, and it's before Mission Impossible 2, and I think it's trying to be kind of a sequel to Mission Impossible. And I think a lot of the reason why it was sort of like, not as well received is that when you stack it up to Brian De Palma's Mission Impossible, like, it does not stack up. Right? It's like, it's not as good as that movie, but it is trying to like sort of be in that kind of new-ish genre, which I thought was pretty interesting in retrospect.
I did like the moment where they're in the vault or whatever, trying to access the mainframe on the computer, and Connery says, like, this is why I don't do banks anymore. It used to be gold bars and diamonds. And he goes, where's the loot? And and I think that was great for his like cranky old man, I'm too old for this shit characterization.
Yeah, I have one thing to say in response to both of you. Like the phrase "poor man's Ocean 11" came to mind.
We talked about that a lot in Thomas Crown Affair, right? Like, yeah, the Ocean 11 unfortunate, like Ocean 11 being after the fact and something that retrospectively you always have to compare these movies to. Yes, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the old man, like, where's the loot? I think that really kind of that puts a finger though on a big theme in this movie, which is this anxiety about financial capitalism and the stock market and these ones and zeros that are supposedly money. And the stock market's turbulent and it goes up and down. And I think that is one of the anxieties of this film. And of course, the Y2K bug was in the ether. It was in the culture, and people were worried that planes were going to fall out of the sky, that bank
they were indeed. Yep.
Right, that banks were going to go haywire and people are going to lose all their money, that because they don't, it's hard for people to wrap their head around the fact that there's not, like, your money in the bank is not just sitting there in a pile.
Yeah.
It's just a bunch of digital numbers in a computer system until you want it. And so people were worried that their savings accounts were going to just vanish because of a glitch in the computer. So he really does capture that. And the film captures that and taps into that anxiety pretty well. I think that's the most interesting thing for me about the film.
Yeah, I mean, it's surprisingly, like, I agreed. I was surprised how not out of date it is, like how actually weirdly prophetic it was when you said, ones and zeros and money. I'm like, yeah, I mean, cryptocurrency, right? Like, this is not a irrational sort of fear at the time, and yeah, of the movies that sort of tap into the Y2K anxiety, weirdly, like, this one kind of gets it the most right. Like, there really were, in certain institutions, like these kind of control rooms to make sure that transition happened the way that all of the computer programmers who spent a lot of time and effort, like, making sure that it would happen, right, said it was going to. And it's pretty consistent in a lot of ways with, like, the way that it actually went down. And, like, everything was fine. But they exploited this one tiny loophole, right, to gain themselves 10 seconds, kind of basically irrespective of the Y2K element of it, just because they had an opening to do so, which I thought was, like, pretty clever. Yeah, I mean, of the movies that, like, actually sort of were made before Y2K and then kind of accurately predicted how it would all pan out, like, this is actually surprisingly, like, good. It's pretty close, right? Like, it actually kind of, like, the world doesn't end because of Satan or whatever, like in End of Days, which is pretty astonishing. So yeah, props to this movie for that. It's weird to sort of see it in the future and see how well that sort of thing holds up there, for sure.
I agree with that. I mean, like, it was just a few years later that the financial crisis of 2008.
Mm.
Well, the housing crisis and then the stock market crash. And so you have movies like The Big Short,
Big Short.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
like people ever since, I feel like people have been keeping their eye closely on the stock market, and it is a source of anxiety that kind of crops up occasionally in films. But I was pleased to see how they handled that here. I thought it was a really clever, interesting element of the movie.
Mm.
And it's also an interesting kind of updating. To me, this kind of felt like it was taking all the tropes of the heist genre and trying to update it for the 21st century
Yeah.
because of the technology that now exists. They don't need chisels anymore.
Yeah.
They have like really sophisticated things that they can, explosives and different types of fasteners and different things that push things to the side. They have really high tech equipment. So
And they're being kind of like meta and fun about it too, which I think is great, right? Like they're sort of it's self-aware of the fact of like, it's not an old man's game anymore, right? Even though Connery is like trying to keep up, right? With his technology, right? There is that sense that you get from him of like, it was more fun when this was more analog. And I could like
Yeah.
do my sneaking,
And there's that moment where like she steals the Rembrandt and does all this high tech Mission Impossible esque stuff to get it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then her genius simple idea is to send it in the mail. And then he figures it all out and intercepts it in the
Yep.
mail and
Yep.
just steals it that way. So there's that high tech versus low tech.
And also like the monkey mask thing, which
Yeah.
that's very sort of, like not sophisticated and just sort of, being an old sort of pranky art thief, right? Moment.
Yeah, but to go back to that point, it's like I forget which critic talked about the difference between stealing art and stealing money,
Money, yeah.
which
Yeah.
we talked about in the Thomas Crown Affair, because in Thomas Crown Affair they changed it from the original, from stealing money to stealing art. And here we go from stealing art to stealing money in this like very high tech way. But it's also like, right, it's supposed to be small amounts of money from a lot of different people. So I wondered what you all made of that.
Well, that part really does anticipate like the way that people make money off of crypto.
Yeah.
They take a small, tiny fraction of a percentage from a sale in these like, what's it called? Like this
Blockchain.
yeah, and through software and running these, high energy consuming computers, they can gain money by taking a fraction of like a penny off of, many places. I'm not an economist or a tech person, so I don't even have a language to describe how it works.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, this does anticipate that, and I'm not sure that any movie had kind of depicted that type of heist ever before. I don't think so.
Aside from Office Space, no.
Office
But in Office
Space.
Space, that's what happens, right? There's that coding that siphons off like 1/1000th of a cent every transaction, and that's how he ends up with like way too much money in the bank by mistake. And like that's
interesting.
Yeah, it's the same.
And
idea.
that was the same year too, wasn't it?
Was indeed. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So there's an Office Space to Entrapment comparison that can be made in an essay.
That could have been in the same building, just like further in the basement. That's where they were working.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? That he, like, when they get to his fabulous Scottish castle, right? He has all this art on the walls, and he says, I steal art to enjoy it.
Mm.
It also calls back to Thomas Crown Affair. But, so, like, maybe that's another dividing line of old and new, where it's just, like, he savors art and treasures art, and that's why he steals. And she's like, fuck this art shit. We're going to get billions and billions of dollars.
She knows what she wants.
Yeah, but there is a really interesting kind of intergenerational commentary there, right? That like that's difference in priorities and this kind of loss of, the value of like aesthetics and getting your hands dirty and like all that sort of thing that I think is a really fun kind of contrast between those two characters throughout the movie, which
She
again
does
you don't
want
get in Thomas Crown.
she does want diamonds at the end, though.
Of course she does.
I do love a good diamond heist.
Oh,
Should have been
same.
a
You know, it
sequel.
just
Should have been a
occurred to
sequel.
me. Just I'm sort of like, this might be a stretch, but because he's British and because he lives in an actual castle,
Mm-hmm.
probably in Scotland
Mm-hmm.
or somewhere in northern England, he sort of is like this aristocratic figure, and she's like this nouveau riche,
Mm-hmm.
upstart American figure.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of like novels that explore this dynamic, especially Victorian novels, where there's some abrasive young American upstart who's trying to hang with the aristocrats in Europe, and they're all looking down on them, even though they don't have as much money. They're not solvent. They have old paintings and old furniture and a really cool house, but they don't actually have cash. And then, so that kind of dynamic is an old trope in these sort of Victorian novels, and even like um, post-Victorian novels. And
Mm.
that's going on here a little bit. I hadn't thought of it until just now.
Can we talk about? I want to talk about some of the sort of outside of the movie elements. Specifically, I want to talk about Sean Connery and Catherine Zeta-Jones a little bit more. But I also want to, first of all, Julia, one thing that kept going through my head while watching this was that this movie and Thomas Crown should have traded directors. I think McTiernan would have done a really great job with this movie, and that Thomas Crown is much more the sort of movie that someone like Emil should have directed, because if you look at a movie like Copycat, which is, a very sort of like Silence of the Lambs-esque taut thriller, it sort of plays more to what Thomas Crown Affair is doing. So I think that's just kind of an interesting little nugget of these two movies. With William Broyles, the script is terrible. The dialogue is sometimes just like unbearably bad. Although the performances go beyond the script, I think, and transcend the quality of the writing. But it was like, I kept being like, this is the guy who wrote Castaway and the guy who wrote like Failure's Not an Option speech. Like, really? And I get it. Like, go ahead.
What were some of the worst lines for you?
I can't remember. Like, I didn't even write them down. Just like some of the things that she would just like when they were just having conversations that she would just say to him. I'm like, that's not how humans talk. I don't know if any of you guys wrote them down, but no, it was jarring. It felt very like unnatural in a lot of their dialogue. But then I realized like Broyles, I mean, Apollo 13 is a lot of very good writing, but it's not really witty dialogue writing. And it's very sort of naturalistic, and he's also borrowing from real life events. And then, of course, Castaway has like famously very little dialogue, period, because a lot of it is just Tom Hanks on an island. But yeah, I mean, it's shockingly bad at times, but I think that also speaks to me to kind of the strength of the performances across the board here, where they are all very much better than the material they have to work with, and that is pretty stunning. Again, aside from Catherine Zeta-Jones's awful American accent, which she just never really quite figured out how to pull off.
As our transatlantic accent cop, what was most egregious for you?
I don't know. It's not even particular pronunciations. It's just the way that her sort of Welsh sort of sound like is then put onto American inflections, and it just always sounds wrong. Like, it just always sounds like someone with kind of a speech impediment. And I know it's not, because I know what the Welsh language does to your mouth and that she speaks it, right? So like, yeah, I'm not blaming her, but like, just let her use her natural accent, for God's sake. Like, why are we doing this? Like, I don't understand why she has to have been born in America for the movie to work. But yeah.
One of the things, going back to what you just said about the dialogue, one of the things that I picked up on was just how much exposition is crammed into dialogue. So like, I prefer films where you figure out what's going on through situations, through other time signals, rather than someone saying, so we're going to have to go to this place by 6 o'clock so we can, like delivering this key information that you need to know.
Mm.
And there's a lot of dialogue like that where he'll say something. She's like, yeah, I know. And then she'll like finish the sentence with this like really precise data.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Like, and that gets tiresome after a while.
Yeah, it's hard for heist movies. Like if you have a plan, you have to exposit one way or another.
You got to tell the audience, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess the best ones show more than they tell.
Yeah.
There's so many, like Rafifi is an example, but Red Circle and stuff, that there's so many great heist movies that are known for being very light on dialogue.
Well, that's why it's helpful to have this sort of like two people who don't know if they can trust each other sort of thing, right? Because you can deal with it that way. That because generally jewel thieves don't like spend a lot of time explaining to people what they're about to do. But of course, in a movie, you kind of have to, because, right? So that they know what it is they're looking for beforehand, and that sort of that dynamic of having these two like who is conning who in this situation. Excuses a bunch of that. But yeah, I'm curious to both of you, because this is something that I have never really landed on, as to whether, like, when I think about Sean Connery, who I think is great here, and I really love this performance from Sean Connery. Like, it has ended up being like one of my favorite performances of his. Was Sean Connery a good actor?
That's a good question, actually.
It is, and I haven't decided. So like I'm open to opinions about this.
He's a little bit like John Wayne. He plays Sean Connery in all of his movies. Like, you're not going to get him to do an American accent.
Yeah.
Like, and John Wayne just plays John Wayne. I mean, so it's hard to answer that question. I think he's pretty good at times, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, he was a very good Bond. He was, in my humble opinion, the best Bond.
Oh, I think that's uncontroversial. Really,
yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, maybe you could be a little wise ass and be like, well, that's the opposite of being a good actor. But I mean, I do think he knew how to do things with cruelty and charisma, and how to make that work the right way with Bond, which is tricky if we're still going to like him, which the Bond movies at least want us to do to some extent. So I think he had control over that special something that he had, and kind of knew how to use it, and knew how to add, a kind of dark dimension to it in a way that requires some skill. This just seems like an entirely different type of performance to me, which I guess we could say shows range.
Yeah, I was surprised by sort of how sort of touching and human some of his performance was here, where he reveals some of the vulnerabilities of the character that in a way that we're kind of not necessarily used to with Sean Connery. I've never not been sort of wrapped up in Connery's performances. I've never been bored by him. I've never found him unconvincing. I do think he probably had a very limited amount of range, I guess you could say. But and whether or not he was sort of an actor's actor is an open question. But I've always thought about something that someone once said. This was like years and years and years ago, about Bruce Willis, who I think is great. But they said that like Bruce Willis is not a great actor, but he's a great movie star. And I think that's basically right. Bruce Willis had some phenomenal performances. But like, he was always kind of stuck in being Bruce Willis to some degree. Like, he always kind of knew it was Bruce Willis, and there was always a Bruce Willis element, even in like The Sixth Sense, and even in like, Nobody's Fool, like that sort of thing. And I kind of feel like that's how I feel about Connery. Like, I'm not sure if maybe I would watch him do Shakespeare. I don't really know, but like, I don't know. It's weird. He's, dead now, so we're never going to get any more work from him. But Yeah, I'm never really quite sure like where to place him in the great movie star versus great actor sort of pantheon. But I saw some things in this that I'm sort of not used to seeing in Connery, and that was sort of lovely to see.
Have you ever seen the movie The Molly Maguires that he's in?
No.
It's from 1970.
Okay.
It's pretty good. We actually covered it on our podcast, Martin Ritt film, and I think it's about these coal miners in Pennsylvania, and they're organizing a strike and they're trying to get better pay. And I thought he was really good in that film. So whenever there's some kind of job to do and there's some kind of task at hand and like there's some kind of like, I think he's good in those kinds of roles. And I did buy his tenderness toward her when she like puts the blanket over her, like covers her with the sheet and like rubs her hair a little bit. I thought those tender moments were good. Or I wasn't as convinced as when he's trying to be really gruff and rude to her while she's training and he's like barking orders with her, and I'm like, I'm not really convinced that he's that pulling off that mean vibe very much right here. But yeah.
I saw him as more like grumpy and cantankerous.
Yeah.
Opposed to like aggressive. Like he's just like he's entering his grumpy grandpa phase,
and that's how he is in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. He's this grumpy dad, right?
10 years earlier. Yeah.
Yeah.
Playing a guy who's 13 years older than Harrison Ford, playing his his old man dad, which I think is quite
funny. Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, they usually save that for actresses playing.
Yeah, right. No, because even in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, right? He's Richard I, who I think was dead by the time he was like 35. But Connery plays him as like a elder 50-year-old something, and he's he's the king. And I think he was even sort of an old man by the early 90s. Like it's it's really
Once
funny.
That toupee came off.
I guess so. Yeah. I speak. Can you guys do a good Connery impression? Julie, do you do a Connery?
No.
Can you
I'm not an impressionist. I think if I were to try, it would actually just end up being Will Ferrell doing.
I think that's most people.
Yeah,
I think that's most people. It's not Will Ferrell. It's Daryl Hammond. Daryl Hammond.
Is it Daryl Hammond or Norm Macdonald?
Daryl Hammond. Norm Macdonald did Burt Reynolds.
Okay.
Right, in those sketches, but Daryl Hammond did
embarrassing myself with the to the extent that it is embarrassing.
Trebek, you rogue. Jason, do you do a Connery?
I'm not sure I ever have. I'll give it a shot.
All right, go for it.
Okay. Watch out for that. But that was a Jimmy Stewart, wasn't it?
That was You started out as Connery and then went Jimmy Stewart on the fourth word.
Watch out for that laser beam, James.
I am the last one. Yeah.
We named the dog Indiana.
We named the dog Indiana. Yeah, it's good. That's good.
Now I'm thinking of a trip.
If Jimmy Stewart were playing Sean Connery, I think that's a great impression that you could bring to America's Got Talent, Jason.
Maybe I can do some stand-up comedy at some point.
You can play Jimmy Stewart playing a bunch of actors.
Who says you don't get a second act in life?
Okay, so I also want to talk about Catherine Zeta-Jones here a little bit because again, impressed by the way that she elevates herself above the material. I think she does a very good job, as I think Ebert said, playing off of Connery, playing this very, very straight, right? Not sort of winking and nodding to the ridiculousness of it all. And I think that works really, really well. Yeah, I mean, she was still, so like Mask of Zorro was 98, right? So she's a year kind of into a star. She's sort of a little bit stumbling over her choices in terms of the movies that she makes and their box office success. So this is an interesting moment for her. But Julie, I know you're a fan of CZJ. Why do you like her so much?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm just on a kind of autobiographical level. Like when Mask of Zorro came out, there's that duel scene where they're fighting in the barn and they're having a sword fight, she and Antonio Banderas, and
Mm.
it ends up with him, ripping up her corset and her,
Hmm.
once again being topless. But like for all that, like that was a really important moment for I think a lot of teen girls my age at the time, and that like it was a very assertive, like it sounds cheesy, I know, I
Yeah,
realize that, but
I
like
got
that
it.
there was this very assertive, like flashy, daring heroine on in the movies. Uh I think she just really, and I mean, like I was joking about the size 6 thing before, but like she was considered, this was like 90s curvy, like
Yeah,
she was
yeah,
considered this
yeah.
like having this kind of like old fashioned bombshell,
Mm,
look to her body. But like that was actually a big deal at the time because it coming off of the 90s heroin chic, like to have that kind of, at least that kind of notion of a woman represented as a sex object was kind of like a big deal at the
hmm.
time
Hmm.
for
Yeah.
girls, I would say. um but then just, yeah, I just adore her. Like she has this, flash and verve to her, and she's very sexy, but in a very kind of like daring and witty kind of way. I love the way her mouth curls up. I think it's just like really appealing. um and Yeah, I mean, I think she has a lot of sex appeal, but with a lot of intelligence and a lot of like humor. I think the way she plays this, there's a kind of like loopy cuteness almost to the way she plays this, that she's just like an adrenaline junkie and she's so proud of herself and she can't get enough
Hmm.
of it. Like I think
Hmm.
she does something interesting with the character that way. And Yeah, I recently uh, I kind of love Intolerable Cruelty, the Coen Brothers movie she made with George Clooney, because
Yeah, I do too. Yeah, that's
I
great.
think she's a delight in that. I recently rewatched Chicago, and she's just astonishingly good in that.
Hmm.
Like does the sexy thing, but again, she has the cynicism of that story down really well. Um, so yeah, so I think she's wonderful. She's wonderful in this role. I know she's had some mental health struggles in the past, so
Hmm.
I hope she's resolved those. And I know, according to you, John, she's in Wednesday now, so I'm glad
Hmm.
she's back.
Hmm. Yeah, do it like not being a star. Like it's funny because we talked about this with Pierce Brosnan last time, right? Like not being a star, but like doing some fun stuff, sort of smaller roles right here and there, which is played to her, I think, her talents quite well, and sort of de-emphasized her as the sort of sexy bombshell, which even she still is, right? Like even in her 50s, I guess, right? She says she was 30, so yeah, mid 50s. Yeah, and I think that she is, to reiterate, like a person that I brought up last episode, in Charlize Theron, right, is one of the actresses of her generation who is obviously like unfairly and ridiculously attractive, but for whom there's very clearly, like every time she's on screen, there's obviously a very interesting kind of inner universe that is like obvious through their eyes, that harkens back, I think, to like a lot of the old Hollywood bombshell actresses, and not so much a lot of the ones that occupied a lot of space in like the 80s and 90s, necessarily. So um yeah, I mean, I'm glad that she made sort of life choices that are good for her, and that she's still doing stuff and hasn't disappeared entirely and like does fun things. But like I do kind of like you more in a little bit the whole like reign of Catherine Zeta-Jones at the box office that wasn't. But yeah, I think she is also one of those people that I just can't think of a time that she's been in a movie that I haven't been intrigued, um, by what she's doing. So, Jason, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, um, all of that's resonates with me, and I actually haven't seen that many movies she's been in. I've seen a few,
Have you
but
seen
not that.
Zorro?
I don't know if maybe, but I don't know because
It's so good.
I
Go watch
my
it right now.
my
It's really
my
good.
movie watching habits are strange, probably different than yours. But I watch a lot of old movies
About
and
the
a lot
Cold
of,
War.
well, just about everything.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of foreign films, and for many years I didn't watch any movies. I was so away from screens, like for a long time. So I have a lot of gaps in my viewing. It's a long story, but uh, but but like I was thinking about you mentioned she has this kind of old Hollywood charm, and it made me think about who does she kind of remind me of, and I was thinking about different actresses, but one of them is Jane Russell. She kind of reminds me some
Mm-hmm.
ways of Jane Russell because Jane Russell was witty and sassy and intelligent, but also beautiful and kind of has this imposing force, and she kind of has that vibe a little bit to me. um, but yeah, I need to catch up on my what I need to catch up on is my 90s and 2000s Hollywood, because there's a lot of gaps in there. So
So I'll
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 check
give
out.
you a little
Same
like,
for me, and I co-host this podcast, so
Yeah,
don't feel
yeah.
bad.
which is why we're gonna be revisiting some movies pretty soon that Julia still hasn't seen. But so a little crash course in Catherine Zeta-Jones. Mask of Zorro is a fantastic movie. Just incredibly good old Hollywood swashbuckling crowd pleasing adventure. It's fantastic. There's nothing like not a note wrong about it. Chicago for sure. Like, see the movie that won her an Oscar. She's firing on all cylinders there. I also love Intolerable Cruelty, and a movie that actually I really like. That is worth revisiting. That came up. I just did a podcast, guested on a podcast about Notting Hill, where the movie America's Sweethearts came up, and she's quite entertaining in that one as well. That's like 2001. It's John Cusack and Julia Roberts and a bunch of other fun people. So a movie that was sort of like overlooked at the time that I think is actually quite great. So yeah, there's some good places to start with Catherine Zeta-Jones. Did I miss anything that's essential, do you think, Julia, of like the early
No, I don't think so. I'm trying to think.
CZJ catalog?
I'm
Okay,
gonna
well,
check out Mask of Zorro.
yeah, yeah.
It's really fun.
Everybody go watch Mask of Zorro.
It's got if you're an old Hollywood person, it's got that fun kind of like Errol Flynn vibe about it.
Well, and also like not only that, I can't remember his name, but the Errol Flynn's choreographer choreographed that movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he also choreographed Return of the Jedi with the lightsaber duels. His name escapes me right now, but yes, it is very much like in that Errol Flynn. Though Antonio Banderas is a much less problematic figure than Errol Flynn is for lots of reasons.
Less statutory rape.
Less statutory rape. Maybe not none. I don't know, but less. All right. So I before we like wrap up on Entrapment, see if there's anything else you guys want to talk about. I do want to talk about the plot twists and the ending. So one of the things I will say, like I really kind of appreciated about this movie is that I kept not being quite sure what side she was on throughout the movie. There's these giant plot holes that are almost kind of charming, right? Like where she puts the gum on the thing, and I'm like, well, there's all your DNA. That's stupid. Like that's very stupid. But like when it focuses on the sort of like it sort of steamrolls over those things because they don't really matter, and it's kind of all absurd anyway. But I was like, wait, who does she actually work for? Like, is she actually a thief, or is what's going on? And then the ending, I was like, I actually kind of didn't see this coming. Like and especially with the Ving Rhames reveal, I was like, oh, that's clever. I actually, that one sort of slid, beneath the radar for me. The plot twists are crazy and absurd, but at least they have I think a good payoff, right? I think that the way that the plotting is so over the top and ridiculous, if you're going to do that, at least like have those kind of things. Because I don't find this movie predictable. I actually was, found myself guessing as to exactly how it would all play out. And I'd seen it before. It's just been a very long time, and I forgot almost everything about it. And even having seen it before, I was like, oh, I can't remember like where this all goes, and I completely forgot kind of what the big plot twist at the end was all about. And yeah, I think in terms of like pulling off some fun plot twists, this movie gets like very high marks. This is where I will give it 5 stars. Is in doing plot twists. But what do you guys think of like the ending and the twists and sort of the way that it sort of keeps you in the dark the whole time? Or did you all figure it out?
I didn't figure it out. No, I was surprised every step of the way. I agree. That's a really satisfying ending. I told myself when the plot twist, oh, that just made the movie better to me.
Yeah.
Like that just elevated the movie.
Yeah.
Because one, I didn't expect it to happen, but also just it's a satisfying turn of events, actually. And this is where their chemistry ramps up as well. And so all that sexual tension, not that they're like start making out or anything, but
Alleged sexual tension.
yeah. Well, alleged sexual tension sort of dissipates a little bit there. But yeah, I like the ending.
I really did too. Just one note about Ving Rhames. I think like he does such a good job, like both sides of his character. Like when he's playing the crook and when he's playing the Fed, like he plays both sides of it perfectly. So,
Yeah, he does. He does. Yeah, and that switch is very pronounced. Like you buy it in both instances, and that it's the same guy. I thought it was great. Yeah,
but yeah, I did not anticipate the ending either, and I did really like it. I liked the way everything went down at the train station and the way he manages to get her off the hook. And I felt like it felt very real, right? Because it felt like her betrayal was very real, but then it's kind of like all back to a fun and games in the heist mode. And then yeah, I really liked the way it was filmed, and then the coming back on the train, and then them kissing and the train covering it up. I did feel like that was a good way of making it kind of romantic and acknowledging the way it's dealt with the potential ickiness of a sexual relationship between the two. Just like, okay, we're going to show it for a minute and then we're not going to show it anymore. I thought it was all handled really well, and I thought it was a lovely ending scene.
It sets up a sequel that never happened, and that's a shame because I really would like to have seen where these characters go in their relationship, and I think pretty soon, realize that that it is more of a father-daughter relationship, and like there's a lot to kind of mine and explore there. It would have been really fun to see them kind of pull off another heist, and I think that the movie's good enough to warrant a sequel, and one that probably could have been better. But I really do think that the reason it didn't get one, because like it wasn't a dud at all. Like it made money, and it's $66 million, and it like made money on that. That's not a small budget, especially for 99, right? So it's sort of an upper to mid-level budget. I'm not quite sure where all that money went, but it's
kind of low budget, doesn't it? Like
there's that awful sequence, like it's one of the worst movie punches in history when they're escaping from McNally's character, the antique dealer guy, and like Sean Connery like punches the guy through the window, and it's so bad. And I was like, come on, really? We're putting this in a big budget action movie, but yeah, some of it looks pretty cheap. Also, keep in mind, like a lot of that CGI was state of the art at the time. The whole like building in Kuala Lumpur, I'm pretty sure was all CGI, and like that was very impressive for the time. So there's a lot of that budget right there. But I think the reason why there's no sequel is because it was squeezed between The Matrix and The Mummy, and like this probably would have made more money had The Mummy not come out the next week. You'd think a movie released in sort of the pre-summer movie month of April would be able to find a sustained audience over a few weeks, but unfortunately, the Warner Brothers with The Matrix and who was it? And Universal with The Mummy had other ideas, and they made the right bet. So I think it's kind of a victim of its own sort of history of 1999 as a year with legendary movies that it never really quite saw coming. And of course, you couldn't not release this movie in 1999 because it's essential to the plot that
Oh, for
it
sure.
come out during that year. So, yeah, I would have loved the sequel to this, but alas, I think there's a lot of places you can go that would make it, that could grow the story out and make an even better movie than this one. But oh well, that's how it is.
I could see them, since it's such a zeitgeisty kind of movie, is such a cultural artifact, like tapping into this thing about the fear of Y2K. The next year, September 11th happens. And I could see
Well,
them doing
yeah,
some.
a year and a half. Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
close.
I could see them doing something like in that direction, but I don't know. I don't know.
Looting Iraqi art.
Oh yeah,
Can
exactly.
you imagine that? They like capitalize on 9/11 and be like, "Oh
I
man,
wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Hollywood does it all the time. Oh man.
And then 2008, they could they could short the housing market and
Right.
become awful billionaires and then turn into anti-heroes. And yeah, I don't know, all kinds of places you could go with
Can,
it. But
can we talk about Sean Connery supposedly climbing barehanded up a metal cable up the
oh
side of
yeah, the whole time I'm like, he's gonna die. Like he's dying. This
like
is where he dies
like
because yeah, there's no way that guy can. Though for a man who's
there's
70 years old, he sure is in good shape in this movie.
yeah,
Like
but I'm not sure
props.
anybody of any state,
No,
even an Olympic gymnast, could
no,
do that.
no,
It's
no.
like the most ridiculous stunt
I
I've
thought
ever
she
seen.
was gonna die too. Like I don't see how either of them could have survived that.
No, no. And it is pretty like that scene is actually genuinely kind of terrifying because I was like, "Oh my god, like this is bad. This looks bad
It's
for me."
like Squid Game. It anticipates Squid Game when they're like hanging off the side of a tall.
Sure.
Uh,
Yeah. I mean, but like they're going to be fine because it's an absurd movie and of course,
yeah.
it's already established that it's absurd. So by the time that happens, luckily, you're like, "Okay, well, whatever, sure." They swung
Mhm.
to the thing and then they climbed the thing and then whatever and all was all was well. But yeah, that had me on sort of the edge of my seat a little bit when he's dangling there. But
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
I'm sure there's a Mythbusters or something about how it's impossible to survive.
Probably.
Yeah, it's hanging off of Christmas lights. But anyhow, anything else you guys want to talk about before we wrap up here?
I just want to get back on my sexual chemistry soapbox for a second, which is that, like, okay, so the thing that bothers me about it is
Yeah.
like that she wants it, right? She wants to have a sexual relationship with him, and he's the one who's just like constantly rebuffing her,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, it's just like I don't want people not wanting to kiss Catherine Zeta-Jones. Like I don't want that for her. I don't want that for me. I want that for everybody. And like he's like a 60-year-old fuckboy. He's like, my situation
Yeah.
is so complicated, and it's just like,
Yeah, I want to know more about that. That was
Well,
interesting. I was like, what is
this
the
is his
situation?
Jimmy Stewart moment, like Rear Window, where what's her name is
Grace
throwing herself.
Kelly.
Grace Kelly's throwing herself at
Yeah.
Jimmy Stewart, and he's like, "No, no, no! I got to watch this murder." This is his. This is where hit. So I could do that impersonation
I have to
because this
steal
is
a
where.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know, like the fact that she just keeps approaching him and gets rejected. It's just like, I don't want to watch that,
But isn't that fun? Because that's the opposite of what you expect, right? Like that again, that's what I thought was cool. That I was like, oh, it's usually the dude who's like trying to get with Catherine Zeta-Jones and she's rebuffing him. And now it's like Sean Connery being like, I'm too old or whatever,
And
Um,
also, we don't mix business with pleasure or whatever. His thief.
strictly business. Yeah, I wanted him to be like, I'm old enough to be your father or something like that. And then, and then her being like, oh, that's kind of gross. You're right. And then move on. But
or just totally activating her daddy issues.
yes, which I
She
felt
may or
like
may
were
not
there,
have.
were
Yeah.
present in the character. But like,
Yeah.
I also we've all been conditioned to believe Catherine Zeta-Jones being with a much older man, and I think that's part of the reason why we're like, well, what's the problem? I mean, you fucking
Yeah.
married Michael Douglas, like,
Oh, she did.
Yeah.
oh yeah. They've been married for like very long time, like
Yeah,
30 years.
like I said, I'm like a little out of the Hollywood.
Not 30 years.
Well,
20,
yeah,
20 years?
well,
Like 20 years, right? Like, yeah, a long time.
in one of my favorite movies, Stanley Donen Charade, uh, Cary Grant was famously much older than Audrey Hepburn, and so he felt like it would be gross for him to be pursuing her.
Mm-hmm.
So he, like, the deal was that she would be chasing him and she would be like pawing all over him. And I think it's really funny and really endearing in that movie. But I think it works because Audrey Hepburn is sort of not like a traditionally, she's not sexy in a kind of bombshell kind of way. So it's kind of her doing this is just kind of goofy and funny, and it is charming. And I think like when you have Catherine Zeta-Jones there, it's kind of just like, like I don't want to see her getting rebuffed by this guy who's just like, well, it's complicated, like.
But this is a you problem, Julia. This is not the movie's problem.
I think it's the movie's problem. Like what I'm saying? Like it's so slight. What my point? Do you understand my point here? Like they devote so little time to it because they know it's gross.
Did you really want to? Okay. Did you really want to see Sean Connery and Catherine Zeta-Jones like make out in a movie?
No, I just wanted it not to be there at all. I feel like if you're not going to commit to it, then don't do it.
I feel like the tropes of the genre require that you acknowledge it and do it and make it like do something with it. And what they did with it was exactly right. And I loved it more.
Exactly right. 100%. You're going to back it up all the way.
No, yes. Insofar as they should, like, I never felt sexy with them. It was weird and gross. And I loved their chemistry, but that wasn't what their chemistry was. And then they like acknowledged that, and then they actually wrote it into the movie. And like, I think it's great.
Okay, so you felt like there was actual chemistry there.
I felt there's chemistry, just not. Yeah, there's great chemistry. I mean, they're great together, right? There's a really cool dynamic between the two of them, and I love.
Like in a sexual way. Did you feel the chemistry?
No, I didn't feel any sexual chemistry, and I felt that them then acknowledging that is what you should do.
Right.
That look on your face.
I could go another round on this, but we don't have all night.
I think we like basically agree. We're just like upset about how it played out. I think that's kind of
where
we are.
I will say actually though, like when she's about to jump in the parachute and he just kisses her on the shoulder, I thought that was nice.
Because they're shoulder kissing buddies. That's
yeah.
Okay, I'm glad we settled this. That's good. All right. Entrapment, if you want to watch it, is available for rent on Amazon and other places for like $4. It's worth $4. Go watch Entrapment. It's fun. And you get to see like two really fun performers in a very interesting part of their careers. And it is better than Thomas Crown Affair. I'm going to say that.
Whoa.
Yeah.
And it's got some fun late 90s computer tech stuff.
It does. Do you not think it's better than Thomas Crown Affair? I thought it was better than Thomas Crown. I think it's aged better than Thomas Crown Affair. I think it's better now than Thomas Crown Affair.
No.
No? Okay. Julia disagrees, thinks Thomas Crown Affair is better. This may have to do with my relative, again, I mentioned this earlier, but my like relative opinions of it then and now. But it's quite good and it's a lot of fun. And go watch them both and decide for yourself. How about that? All right, Jason, we end every episode of the podcast with two essential questions. And this might be interesting because of what you have said cryptically about your movie history, but we'll see how this goes. So Julia, take it away.
Jason, do you have a favorite movie of 1999?
Can I pick a documentary?
Is the documentary American movie? Because if so, absolutely. But
no, it's
else,
different.
You can also pick a documentary.
It's a different
documentary. Pick a documentary.
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah.
Or can I pick maybe one documentary and one narrative?
Sure. There's no. Yeah, I think the judges approve of that. Judges.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, they say
so.
Yes. Yeah.
So I love American movie. I think it's a great movie. But I'm gonna pick Errol Morris's film Mr. Death: The Rise and Fall of Fred A. Luchter Jr.
Oh my God! Thank you, Jason. I love this movie. I kind of want us to do it, John.
Yeah,
I've seen it multiple times, and for some reason it's overlooked in his oeuvre or whatever. People don't talk about it very much. I'm not even sure if it's streaming or not, but it's just one of those movies you don't hear very much about. And I've seen it multiple times. I've shown it to people. it kind of gives you a little bit of the kind of admittedly kind of weird and political and dark stuff that I tend to gravitate toward.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fantastic film, and it's also full of surprises. You're like, what? How did this happen? Like, it's one of the most surprising stories, and it's just an unbelievable film.
And
So that's
it's about people doing.
I have not seen it, and I love Errol Morris.
Oh, you would love it, John.
I'm sure I would. Yeah, well,
it's overlooked. Yeah.
And it's so relevant today because it's all about conspiracy theories and doing your own research and
oh god,
like how people fall
and
into
also
disinformation
and move toward fascism and things like that.
Well, that's never going to happen, so we're fine.
Yeah.
Just meant ideologically, but yeah.
We're good. Everything's good. Don't worry about it, guys. We're fine. Everything's fine. America's good.
Watch this movie if you haven't seen it.
Okay. So good.
Okay. Can I do my narrative?
Let's do it. Yep.
Okay. So this is also going to be, so obviously there's so many good films from 99, and I was a moviegoer at this time. So I remember seeing quite a few movies in the theater, like Fight Club and American Beauty and all these different things. But I'm going to go with Rosetta by the Dardenne brothers, a Belgian film.
Okay.
And I actually rewatched it today just to make sure. And I'm like, yeah, this is
you are the most prepared anybody's ever been for this question, by the way. Like, I commend you. I commend you on that one.
Well, if you ever listen to our podcast, you'll see we're like overly prepared.
Yeah.
It's just like kind of my weird personality. But yeah, this movie is, I'm not saying it's the greatest movie of the year, but for some reason I had never seen a movie like it. And it's sort of the opposite in terms of the way it's put together opposite to Entrapment. If Entrapment is just overloading exposition, Rosetta has almost not a shred of exposition. and you're just like following this character in Belgium, in Liège, and she's trying to survive. She's trying to get money, and she's on the brink of, she's really living in poverty, and she's just moving the whole time. There's a camera behind her and handheld, and she's just going and going and going. And it's just an astonishing people. It ended up winning the Palme d'Or that year. And I've seen most of the Dardenne brothers movies, but this is my pick for 99.
I love it. Great choice. I also have not seen that. I have heard of it before, but I have not seen it. So those are.
If you end up covering either of these, I'm always open to
invitations. No, for sure. Like if we do Mr. Death, for sure.
Yeah, please come and do Mr. Death.
Maybe in the spring, or we got to start doing some documentaries because there's also like Buena Vista Social Club we still haven't done, and there's.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a great film.
Great soundtrack.
We need to expand our documentary oeuvre a little bit here, Julia.
Okay, second question, Jason. Do you have a favorite movie of all time?
Oh man, this one's hard because I have a lot of favorite movies.
What would you tell somebody at a cocktail party if they cornered you in a room and was like, "Hey man, what's your favorite movie of all time?" Just to get out of the conversation, what would you say?
Well, I'm just looking at my letterbox. I haven't had a letterbox that long, but I've taken to it like a duck to water or something. And I really enjoy it. I really enjoy it. And what I have here for my first one listed is Pater Panchali by Satyajit Ray. This 1955, the first film in the Apu trilogy. And I'm obsessed with this movie. I've seen it multiple times. I'm obsessed with Bengali cinema from that part of India. And my wife is from India. She's a Bollywood film scholar.
Oh wow, that's cool.
So if you ever cover a Bollywood film from 99, she's like a Bollywood fanatic.
That'd be a lot of fun, actually. Yeah.
She teaches classes on Bollywood and everything.
That's awesome. Wow,
I just realized I have a good friend from grad school who's does Bengali in Shakespeare films.
Whoa!
But
yeah, like adaptations.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I've seen some Indian Shakespeare adaptations. They're not Bengali ones; they're Hindi language. But yeah, there's some There's a bunch.
That's so
But I've
cool.
just learned that there are a bunch of Bengali Agatha Christie adaptations,
I believe it.
which is something I'm about to dip my toes into.
That kind
Very
of rules. Yeah.
yeah.
Awesome.
How do
So,
you do the racism? That's weird. Like how do you do
I
that?
mean,
well,
how does India deal with colonial
oh,
shit all the time? They figure out a way. They
How do you
do their own thing.
reframe a lot of the that's so interesting.
oh, well,
I mean the
there's
colonial
definitely like colorism and racism alive and well in India, and
mm-hmm.
there's
Yeah.
minority groups
Yeah.
that deal with that.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, it I don't know if you've seen the Apu trilogy, is 3 films, but the first one
Yeah.
is called Pater Panchali. It's so good. I like movies about kids. Obviously, both of these movies, Rosetta and this, are about young people trying to deal with adult things that are happening to them that they shouldn't have to deal with. I think I like movies like that a lot.
Yeah. Cool. Well, great choices. That's very interesting. A plus. And I learned about a Bengali Agatha Christie genre that I never knew existed. So
I'm starting tonight. I'm so excited.
What, do you know what it is that you're watching?
I'd have to look up the Bengali names again, but I know there's
Yeah,
one
it's a movie or a show.
movies. There's
Okay,
one based on And Then There Were None, which many countries have made film
yeah.
versions of
right.
And Then There Were None.
Which has
My
like
my
the most
wife.
racist title of all of Agatha Christie's movies. Which
Yeah,
is
Oh,
yeah. It's
books.
I just listened to the audiobook. It's 10 Little Soldier Boys now.
Yep.
So we've
Yep.
we've updated it with the times.
My wife is a big Agatha Christie fan too, and has read all the books and like loves all these adaptations in England and in India.
What's the Bengali name of Hercule Poirot? Is it like is there a guy who is like the Bengali version?
I'm gonna find out.
Or is
I'll
he just
report back.
Hercule Poirot and he's like a Belgian detective who goes to
Yeah, that seems like that would be bad. Like that would be
Yeah, you can't
dealing with the colonialism too
you
directly.
can't do that. All right. We have awoken something in Julia. So we will leave it there. Jason, thank you so much. This was great. I enjoyed this movie. I enjoyed this discussion. I loved having you. So thank you so much. Before we
Thank
go,
you.
where can people find you and your podcast?
The podcast is just coldwarcinema.com, and it's on all the apps and places. I'm on Twitter at Jason A. Christian. I spend too much time there. Even now, it's a
Get off
bad
Twitter.
habit.
Get off Twitter, man. Go to Blue Sky. It's so much more fun.
I feel like Blue Sky just, I don't get as much. I'm on there too. Same handle.
Mhm.
I don't have very many followers and I don't get any engagement there, but maybe that's a me problem.
You got to work on it. Yeah, you got to you
Yeah.
gotta spend some
Yeah, I'm
time.
on both of those,
Yeah.
Blue Sky and Twitter, Jason A. Christian.
Cool. How often does the podcast come out? What's your
Lately it's been coming out every 3 weeks.
Okay.
So every 3 to 4 weeks, I'd say. It's been around for, we've got like 26, 27 episodes. So we've picked up the pace a little bit. It's been around about a year and a half.
Cool.
And we're covering Soviet films and anti-communist Hollywood films right now, dialectically going back and forth.
Nice.
Cool.
I love it.
Episode. So the next film we're covering is called The Poet. It's a Soviet film from the 50s. And then we just go back and forth like that. And then when we get through this season next year, we're going to look at global cinema. And we've covered a lot of interesting films.
Cool.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Yeah, I've just only recently found out about this podcast, but right up my alley, and I'm looking forward to listening to some of the back catalog and
Nice.
following along with you. So
yeah,
Yeah,
nice.
me too.
yeah, all right. So go watch some Bengali Agatha Christie, everybody. See if you did you find where you can watch it, by the way?
It seems like you can get them with English subtitles on YouTube.
Cool. All right.
I will report back. I guess on our Blue Sky I can report back.
Sounds good. God bless Blue Sky. You can find us on Blue Sky at John Brooks and Julia Sermons and 1999 the podcast. You can find our show at cageclub.me /1999. In addition to other shows, you can email us at 1999 at cageclub.me. I'm going to do a different sign. I'm going to change our sign off. You ready for this? because
Yeah. All
we
right.
changed our art. So in the meantime, we'll see you in a couple weeks. And the first rule of 1999 podcast is that you don't talk about 1999.
No, you have to talk about
Well,
it.
you have to.
Talk
So,
about
like,
it
okay.
extensively on your
The
socials.
first rule of 1999 the podcast is tell all your friends about 1999 the podcast. Is that better? Do you like that
Yes.
one? All right, we'll do that from now on. All right. Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Julia. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you all.